Hola clase, today we're going to talk about ER and IR verbs in the present tense, so make sure you have your ER and IR verbs note guide available and that you're filling in the PowerPoint as we go through it. Okay, a verb tense is the form of the verb that shows when an action is happening. So some examples of that would be the present tense, the past tense, the future tense, to tell us when it's happening, right? So we're going to talk about the present tense, and that shows an action that is happening now. So let's fill in the first question, the first two questions of part A of your note guide. Pause the video. Okay, an infinitive is a verb in its simplest form. An infinitive means to do something. You have already learned how to conjugate AR verbs, infinitives. There are three types of verb infinitives in Spanish. They end in AR, ER, and IR, and here are some examples of each. Okay, so let's review some AR verb infinitives. Hablar is to talk or speak. Escuchar is to listen, and descansar is to rest. Okay? We're going to talk today about ER and IR verbs, so here are a few examples of those. Comer is to eat, leer to read, vender to sell. IR verb infinitives, escribir is to write, asistir is to attend, and compartir is to share. So at this time, go ahead and fill in the next few questions and list three examples of ER infinitives and IR infinitives. Pause the video. Okay, let's look at present tense ER verbs first. To conjugate a verb ending in ER, follow these steps. First, you're going to start with the verb infinitive. So an example would be comer. You'll drop the ER off of that verb, and you'll add these endings. O, es, a, hemos, en. Pause the video and fill in the part of the note guide for part A that asks you to write the steps for conjugating an ER verb. Okay, let's talk about an IR verb. To conjugate a verb ending in IR, follow these steps. You'll notice they're similar. The steps are exactly the same as ER, but some of the endings are different. So start with the verb infinitive. An example for an IR infinitive would be escribir. Drop the IR from the end and add these endings. O, es, a, hemos, en. So I want you to notice here, for ER verbs it was EMOS, but for IR verbs it's IMOS. That's the only difference in the endings between ER and IR verbs. Okay? Pause the video and fill that part of part A out of your note guide. All right, let's fill out a conjugation for the verb comer. Remember, comer means to eat. When we conjugate it, we change it, okay, to match the subject. So instead of saying to eat, you can say I eat, I am eating, or I do eat, okay? All right, so yo como, tú comes, usted, él, ella come, nosotros comemos, ustedes, ellos, ellas comen. So notice what we've done is we've taken our infinitive, comer, dropped the ER, we're left with COM, that's called the stem of the verb, and then we add the appropriate ending to match the subject. So if yo is the subject, we add O. All right, pause the video and fill in part B, where it asks you to conjugate comer. All right, let's do an IR example. We have escribir, to write. Okay, we've done the same thing here. We've dropped the IR from escribir, and we add the appropriate ending to match the subject. Okay, yo escribo, tú escribes, usted, él, ella escribe, nosotros escribimos. Notice we used IMOS instead of EMOS. Ustedes, ellos, ellas escriben. Pause the video and fill in the next chart for the forms of escribir. All right, present tense ER and IR verbs here. Let's talk about what they mean when they're conjugated. It says the Spanish present tense verb como can be expressed in English three different ways. Okay, so remember como is the yo form, like yo como. It can mean I eat, I am eating, or I do eat. Okay, so there are multiple ways we could say that in English, okay? The Spanish present tense escribimos can be expressed in three different ways in English as well. Notice escribimos is the we form, nosotros escribimos, and it can translate to we write, we are writing, and we do write. So let's go ahead and fill in those bottom two questions underneath the charts for part B. Okay, practiquemos. Let's start with some ER verb conjugations. It asks us to conjugate the following ER verbs in the present tense. Notice that we have a different ER verb for each sentence, so we want to make sure we're conjugating the verb in parentheses for each one. All right? So we have ella as our subject. Our verb is leer. We know our first step is to take leer and drop the ER. That leaves LE. So our stem we must put back. And then if we use the chart to help us figure out what ending to use when ella is the subject, we see that that is an E. So the correct conjugation for leer in ella is lee. Ella lee libros para la clase de inglés. She reads books for English class. Okay, pause the video and fill in 2 through 5. Okay, número 2. Ellos aprenden información importante en la escuela. They learn important information in school. What we've done is we've dropped the ER from aprender and added EN to match ellos. 3. ¿Bebes tú muchos refrescos? Do you drink a lot of soft drinks? Again, remember we've talked about how in a question, the subject pronoun will come after the verb, so notice tú came after. And the form of the verb beber we need is bebes. Drop the ER and add ES. 4. Mi amigo y yo hacemos la tarea mucho. My friend and I do homework a lot. Okay? So you're talking about my friend and I, which is like saying we. And the nosotros ending for ER verbs is hemos. So we drop ER from hacer, and hacemos is the correct conjugation. 5. Yo como la cena en casa todos los domingos. I eat dinner at home every Sunday. Okay? The verb is comer. We drop the ER and add O because the yo form is como. Más práctica. Conjugate IR verbs. Okay, same thing here. We're going to use IR verbs. And notice there's a different one for each. Okay, so you'll drop the IR and match up the ending to the subject. Let's do the first one together. Yo escribo apuntes en la clase de historia. I chose escribo because if I drop the IR and add O, that matches the yo subject. Okay, so I write notes in history class. Go ahead and pause and fill in 2 through 5. Okay, nosotros compartimos la computadora todos los días. We share the computer every day. Remember with IR verbs in the nosotros form, the ending is IMOS instead of EMOS. Remember that's the one that's different from the rest. Okay. 3. ¿Asisten ustedes la clase de arte siempre? Do you guys attend art class always? Okay, again, the ustedes ending would be EN. So we dropped the IR and added EN. 4. Mi tío vive en una casa grande. My uncle lives in a big house. Here we've dropped the IR and added E because my uncle is like saying he. And finally, 5. ¿Recibes tú una buena nota en el examen? Do you get a good grade on the test? Okay, and notice that in these 2 questions, the subject pronoun came after. Okay, the form of the verb, recibir, would be recibes because we dropped the IR and added ES to make it the 2 form. All right, write any questions you may have on your note guide. Make sure to ask them as soon as class begins. There will be a 5-point mini quiz the next day at the beginning of class. Please take the initiative to watch the video more than once in order to fully and completely understand the content covered in the video and or to help clear up any confusion. At this point, please fill out part E of your note guide. I ask you to write any questions that you may have. Adios.